What is up, Sopranos fans? Kino here, and I'm back with another Soprano log, Season 2, Episode 4, Commendatori. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, any Italians, but the episode opens with the guys watching The Godfather. Tony's a little annoyed because they watch this all the time. It's funny that Paulie's talking about what his favorite part is, and he mentions it's when Michael grabs Fredo and is like, "It was you, Fredo." And we can see Pussy behind him. And of course, Pussy is a traitor just like Fredo was. So that's an interesting little call out there. We move on to this white, rich family. They have a nice car. They're driving downtown somewhere. And they get robbed by some black guys. And it's funny, the dad yells out a very bad word when the black guys rob him. And he's like, who else would rob us besides them? And then we cut to Tony looking at pictures of the cars. So even though it was the black guy stealing the cars, it was Tony's operation, and he's actually the one behind it. But we learn that Tony's going to Italy to negotiate a deal with the Italian mafia to sell these cars that they've stolen. This was originally Uncle Junior's operation, but Tony absorbed it when he took over all of Uncle June's stuff, and he's going to meet with the family there, whom Tony is distantly related to. So it's kind of like a homecoming for him and the guys. They're going to their homeland. So Tony flies over there. His contact there is Furio, who we meet for the first time. Furio speaks English, and he introduces the Soprano crew to the guy who's in charge there. They're supposed to be meeting with a guy named Zivitorio, but Zivitorio is an old man now. The one who's really running things is his daughter. His daughter married another very powerful mobster. That guy's in prison for life. And so his daughter, Annalisa, is now the one kind of running things, which Tony's kind of flabbergasted by. He doesn't like the idea of a woman boss. But Furio is actually a really good translator. The guy he's talking to is kind of insulting Tony in Italian, and Furio translates it in a very polite way. So he's a very good diplomat, in addition to all his other skills as an enforcer. But they're talking to these mobsters, and it's becoming quickly apparent that they're not really familiar with their own culture. They're kind of outsiders. They don't like the food. They don't speak the language. They come off as very crass and unsophisticated to the Italians, who look down on them. So despite all they talk about, being traditional Italians and so proud of their culture, they really don't fit in that well. Christopher starts using drugs. He's been using heroin this whole season, but we see him, shooting up in Italy with some of the guys there. It's funny. He talks about the fact that he's gonna go see this volcano, this crater, and nothing's gonna stop him. But he ends up not going because he just wants to get high instead. So it's kind of a hint that he's his own worst enemy. His drug use is going to get in the way of his goals, which we'll see later on. There's a good David Chase cameo when Paulie is in the cafe. He's trying to connect with the Italians there. He's just randomly saying commendatori, which he heard from one of the Italians, to pretty much anyone he meets on the street. And we can see David Chase right there as an extra in the scene, looking at Paulie, not really giving a shit about him, and then turning around. And then he calls him a cocksucker, which is pretty funny. So Tony has to work with Annalisa, even though he doesn't really want to. It's also complicated by the fact that he's attracted to her. He has this dream about having sex with her. But again, the idea of having to negotiate with a strong woman just really annoys him. So Tony wants Italian guys to come over to America. He's worried about the loyalty of his crew, and he figures that these old school Italian guys will be more loyal and trustworthy. So he wants Furio. Annalisa doesn't want to let Furio go because he's the most loyal and talented member of her crew. But eventually they reach a deal where he'll lower the price on the cars, and she'll give him Furio and some other guys as well. Eventually they go home. It's funny, Paulie's completely lying about feeling right at home. He was just as much an outsider as everyone else. And there's this feeling of disappointment to be back in America. Their life here is much more plain than the one that the Italians live, even though they have more money here and stuff like that. So just a really interesting look at their culture and their background. But that's the first main thing going on here. The second is that Carmela and Rosalie are having lunch with Angie, Pussy's wife. At first, she's kind of lying about being glad that Pussy's home, but she kind of breaks down in tears and reveals that she hates Pussy. She doesn't want to be married to him anymore. He's just been a complete asshole their whole marriage, and especially now, he's just so not there. He disappeared and then came back without any kind of warning, and he's acting really strange, not really caring about the fact that she might have breast cancer. And we know that Pussy is going through some stuff because he's an informant now. He's trying to keep everything a secret, not get killed. And this is kind of starting to mess with him mentally. He gets recognized with his handler, Skip, at a party store by some Elvis impersonator. And this really drives him crazy. He's worried that the guy might say something. So he goes and kills the Elvis guy for no real reason other than just the fact that he's paranoid. So we can see Pussy is starting to lose it here. Carmela talks to Janice about the divorce situation with Angie. Janice kind of makes Carmela feel bad for basically being a housewife and not really asking much out of life. She's content to just be a housewife. And that makes Carmela feel bad. So she goes to Angie and really tries to convince her not to get a divorce. She lists a bunch of reasons why, but I think the main thing is that Carmela does not want to face her own situation, and she doesn't want Angie to divorce Pussy because then Carmela will have to think about, do I want to divorce Tony? And that's a difficult question she doesn't want to think about, even though she is as unhappy as Angie is. She wants to pretend that things are good, and Angie leaving Pussy would kind of disrupt that. And we do see at the end of the episode when Tony comes back home, she has this look on her face that she's not really glad he's back either. But that's kind of Carmela's whole personality, is she doesn't want to think about that kind of stuff. She just wants to escape from the reality of her situation. So yeah, that is Commendatore. Really good episode. I loved seeing all the Italian parts. It was great to be in a different setting for once. And we got a new character coming over, which is going to be great to see. Furio is an awesome, awesome character. So stay tuned for him next episode and the next Soprano log. Thanks.